this is Wildlife Club, Mbale Secondary School. We are here to introduce you to our botanical garden. This is our botanical garden that we actually came up with. This is actually to implement in the members and the students of the country about what the environment is all about. We are here to talk about the environment because we see that this botanical garden just earlier, in the earlier years, we had the botanical garden, we had all our trees here, but unfortunately all our biodiversity has been lost just because of cutting down of trees. So we are trying just to gazette this place so that we can come up with different species of trees. When we come up with the different species of trees, this can be medicinal trees, and these are going to help us in carrying out the different environmental practices, such as when these trees are held in our community, we are going to make sure that all the trees are going to help us in the rain formation, and this rain formation is going to help our crops, even the ones in the surrounding communities. This is going to help the rain formation and also reduction in the accumulation of the carbon dioxide gas in the atmosphere. Yes, this project here is also solving the problem of pollution. We have seen that in our environment and outside there, people are drinking what they drink. People are using plastics in the different ways. As you have seen the different bottles we are having. These bottles here are being dumped everywhere, leading to air pollution. We have land pollution, as also it's having the negative effects on the environment. We see that when these bottles are dumped there, they're going to lead to soil infertility. Maybe also when they're burnt, these are going to lead to accumulation of gases into the atmosphere. So when we come up and make these plastics here into useful things, this means we are trying to innovate. We are trying to make sure that our environment is not destroyed by the plastics. So we came up with this project such that our environment is secure from all kinds of plastics, so that when we come up with these plastics here, they're going to save us from some of the dangers which are going to result into the pollution of these plastics in our environment. As you can see, these plastics here or in our environment, they are very, very, very vital to us. We cannot live without them, but then we should know how can we live friendly with them. And so we cannot say we should burn away the plastics, but then how can we live in a friendly with them? So that's why we came up with this botanical garden. This is going to help us make something that is better. As our elders are living, what are they leaving behind? Are they leaving something, or they are leaving irresponsible citizens? Remember, we are the upcoming citizens. Are we becoming responsible citizens, or we are becoming irresponsible citizens? So we should come up and say that if our elders did this or did not do this, then what are we coming up with? How can we care for our environment? Because we know clearly that our environment is the one that supports our living. When we don't have this environment, then we cannot live. Just find an environment where everyone is sick, everyone is suffering from asthma, everyone is suffering from the different diseases. As you see that even these plastics can be dumped into the water bodies, into other places. These are leading to even different diseases like malaria, like Ebola, some sort of that. So if we come up with such things, if we come up with such mitigations, we are going to make sure that our environment is safe and conducive for everyone, for the future generations and everyone that is to come for us.
Fenga club ya Wildlife Club ya Mbale SS, we to trying like to lift people's talents and probably to always be supportive mungeli emu obendala. Kati enkitu ekiri abaana baffe balaba obuzibu obuli mu ssomero lyaffe. Of course ng'oggyeyo ebyobuveera waliyo n'obuzibu obulala obw'obucupa kati nga we mubulaba ssaawa zino. Kati abaana basooka ne bajja ne bakaminga up ne kye tuyita dustbins, but again bwava mu gundi mu bucupa. Kati olwavaawo still obuzibu bwali buli kweyongera oba okupollutinga environment yaffe nga Mbale SS. Kati abantu abaali basomeddeko wano bajja kugamba nti ekifo kino kye tuli mu ssaawa zino kyali kyekifo ekiri like one of the most beautiful places at Mbale Secondary School. Naye kati kyali kibadde kigenze nga kifa. Kati bajja ne idea eyo ekyokurevivinga kino ekifo kye tuyita botanical gardens. Kati mu ngeri ey'okujja ne idea bagamba balina okusooka okukifensinga. Balina okulaba engeri gye balina okukifensingamu nga they also look at like trying to conserve the environment. Kati kokujja ne idea ey'okufensinga okozesa obucupa buno. Kati okuja n'obucupa buno nga baagala ba reviving the green nature of Mbale Secondary School abantu abasomerawo gye baali bamanyi nga we nkugambya mabegako awo ekifo kino kye kyali kisinga biseera ebyo ng'ekisinga okubeera ekirungi ennyo nga mulimu ebirimi eby'enjawulo ebyobuwangwa eby'enjawulo mu ngeri nti abasomesa biology ne agriculture bali tebeetagisibwa kugenda wabweru w'essomero okufuna ebintu ebyo balyoke babikozese nga baali babifuna wano kati bibadde bigenze nga biggwawo kati Wildlife Club kwe kujja ne idea eno okureviving ekifo kino era kye bagezaako okulaba okukola kiri nti bagezaako okureviving ekifo nga like planting all the local plants ebirime ebyobuwangwa babizeemu so that in case biba byetaagisibwa musomero okozesebwa musomero basobola obifuna muno si kugenda wabweru kati nga Mbale Secondary School nga wembagambika mabegako awo tuba tugezaako oku bringing what we call innovativeness and creativity kati tulina ne curriculum gye tuyita new curriculum elimu O level kati curriculum eyo ekintu kyesinga okutunuulira kwe okujjayo like that creativity within a student kati okuyiiya oba obuyiiya in one way or another kati ffe nga ba patrons we looked at supporting these particular learners however mu kuba supportinga be bajja ne idea eno ey'okujja ne plastic okufensinga ekifo kino ne plastic bottles ye idea yennyini gye bajja nayo era tuli just mu ntandikwa tugezaako kukimakinga ebeere so awesome kati ffe twagala ebeere tugiyite 5-star botanical garden ku Mbale SS kati genda kubeera kifo nga kyamaanyi nnyo nga n'amasomero amalala gajja wano ku benchmarking agambe Mbale SS yajja n'ekintu kino they come and benchmark and say how did they make it bakikola batya so that we also share in order for us to improve tubenga tu improving otulongosa ebyobuwangwa o ekitundu kyaffe nga Mbale City negwanga and then probably n'ensi yonna at large.
Here where we are at Mbale SS ground and we are at Botanical Gardens. In the history of Mbale SS, those of us who have been to Mbale SS, who had been to Mbale SS earlier, realize that where we are was a green belt. It was a botanical garden which had numerous plants varying from the big trees up to the medicinal plants, even creeping plants which were all over. The OBs and OGs of this school will testify that this was a very beautiful area and a very important point of conservation. When subjects like biology, agriculture wanted some plants for teaching purposes, this is where they would get their teaching aids in form of plants. Now, where we have reached, the environment has been degraded so much, not only in Mbale SS, but all over. And within school, in a school setting, we deal with young children who are actually the future generation. And where we are, we as elders who have ever benefited in a green environment have a feeling that at this space, if we just look on things going that way, we may not have a good survival in the future. First of all, we need to teach the learners to manage how to conserve their environment. And by so doing, first of all, we begin by the learners themselves. We teach them that these subjects that we are teaching them, especially in the new curriculum where we emphasize looking at the environment and then being innovative, how to survive in the new environment and in the competitive world altogether, we find that we first teach these learners. We classify them in groups, environmental groups, those ones conserving the environment, those of Wildlife Club, but all of them look at one point, that is conservation. So in the new curriculum, we know that there's a lot of creativity among the learners. So we looked at the bigger problem, that is the polythene bag. And sincerely, when I look at a polythene, I think if there's hate, the person I hate most is the person who created the polythene bag and plastic bottles. Though they are useful to us, we realize that dumping them or containing them was a big challenge. Mbale SS as a school, it is a big one. With a population over 4,000, if everybody drank water in a plastic container, we realized that dumping or containing those plastics at the end of it was a problem. So we tasked the learners who came up with an idea of how to conserve. The first group came up with dustbins. These ones made dustbins which were big, they contained some rubbish somewhere. But we realized that the dustbins themselves were not enough. So they decided now to create an idea of reviving the botanical garden. But given the high population, trespassing was too much. So we decided to set up at least a sort of a boundary at least to demarcate an area where we are intending to show a sample of conservation. So the learners came up with an idea of a plastic fence. This one, they have tried to use the plastics to fence an area, but so far so good. The green grass at least has begun growing. But we find that that is not enough. These plastics still continue. Now, here where we are, the learners who are in the new curriculum, who are supposed to be practical wherever, we feel that if we just keep it to ourselves, we shall not benefit more. So we are trying to teach learners with their hands on. We expose them to the place that, for example, the botanical gardens and any any bare space within school so that they can use. If you observe Mbale SS, we are trying to use plastics to fence. They are the same things which are going to be used in our plan. We have them to act as drip irrigation. Some of the containers are used for fencing, some will be used for drip irrigation in the dry spell.
Nga eno enimiro yaffe eno twasalawo okugiyita botanical garden yaffe nga twagala okuddamu okukomyawo emiti gyaffe egyali givuddemu eno ennimiro ng'emyaka egyayisewo egyali twalina emiti mingi egy'ebika bingi nga ffe ng'abayizi nga gituyamba okusomeramu, naye twafuna obuzibu emiti egyo ne babeera nga bagitema okugikozesa ebintu ebyenjawulo okufunamu enku ez'okufumba wanene ku ssomero. N'ekizibu ekyakyo twasanga nti essomero lyaffe eno nga olaba tuli abaana bangi, waliwo ebintu bye twali tetusobola kubeera nga tetubirina nga olaba amazzi, naye twasanga obuzibu nti obucupa buneeno bwali tebalina control nga bagenda babusuulasuula buli wamu. Kati ffe nga aba Wildlife Club Mbale Secondary School ne tusalawo okufuna engeri ki kye tugenda bukozesa, tugenda beera nabwo butya mu ssomero lyaffe lineeno nga tebukosa butonde bwansi era nga tebuziza ttaka lyaffe eryali eggimu emabega. So ne tusalawo ffe nga club ya Wildlife tugenda bukozesa batya, ne tusalawo tubukuŋŋaanye mu ssomero lyonna ne wabweru wa Mbale City ennene. So ne tusalawo tubukozese okutuyambako okuddaabiriza ennimiro yaffe eno nga tubwetolooza okolanga fence. So tukyalina projects nyingi twagala kuddamu ng'ennimiro yaffe eno efaanana bulungi nga we yali edda eyeeyagaza, nga buli muntu yenna kwegamba wajja ku Mbale SS agamba ya eno ddala yeno giant eya Eastern Region eya Uganda. So tukyalina ebintu bingi ebyokukola, tukyali just ku level 1 eya okugirevivinga okuddamu okubeera constructive, naye nga we mulaba projects nyingi zikyagenda mu maaso nga okutereeza ettaka tugezaako tuddemu tugitereeze ebeere ku level nga we yali, tusimbe then emiti egyaliwo eginaatuyamba mu bintu ebyenjawulo okuli nga eddagala eloko n'okubeera nga we tumanyi emiti gino eno gituyambako ne gikola nga wind breakers in case tulabye amasomero nga mangi enkuba nga wejja zono n'ebizimbe ne baneiba baffe waneeno not so long ago enkuba yajja, naye we tubeera nga tulina emiti gino eno gijja kutuyambako okubeera nga gistopinga empewo ey'amaanyi enaabeze sooli awo eyinza okutukosa. So okusinziira ekigendererwa kyaffe kyakuddamu kubeera nga emiti gino eno tugizaawo era nga essomero lyaffe lyeyagaze nga we lyali.